Hey, hello everyone. Again, this is JD Fascinetti, and we are at ENDO 2025 chatting with our key executives from Recordati, and we have wonderful to welcome Peter Strauss. And Peter, tell our audience your title and what you do at Recordati.
Sure, and thanks for having me, JD.
My pleasure. Yeah, we've known each other for a few years. We've always run into
I'm glad
and had some great conversations.
And I'm glad I finally have the opportunity to speak with you here.
It's wonderful. Thank you. You're taking the time. I know you're extremely busy.
No, I'll make the time for you.
Thanks.
So my name's Pete Strauss, as you mentioned, and I'm the Vice President of Commercial Operations for the Endocrinology Business Unit here at Recordati Rare Disease. It's a fancy title. Essentially what I do is I run all of sales and marketing as well as market access. I also happen to run the market access function for all of our business units. We have 4 different business units, but my primary focus is on endocrinology. Yeah,
that's terrific. So, well, there's so many things that we could be talking about, access being so interesting and such a challenge, I'm sure. But I thought we would concentrate on insight, and we talked with Alessandro a little bit about insight in the medical world, and a big part of this is patients, obviously. So how does Recordati go about understanding the patients? Through what channels? I know you work very directly with the HCP channels, the healthcare provider channels. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about that? I think that would be fascinating for our audience to hear.
Sure. Well, when I joined Recordati 5 years ago, one of the things that attracted me to this organization is our overall mission. If you go to our website, it'll be very clear to see that our mission is really focused on the few. Yeah. What we mean by that is we are really focused on those patients, specifically patients with rare disease. Yeah. So that's really at the center of everything that we do.
Yeah, that's a great line, by the way, focus on the few. It really just kind of really says it.
It really does. Yeah. So, to answer your question, how do we gather insights? There's a number of different ways. The first and foremost, we do interact with a number of physicians and healthcare providers, and we map out the patient journey, really better understand what patients are going through. As you know, in rare disease, many of these patients go many, many years of suffering without having a diagnosis or a treatment option. And so the better we can understand what that patient journey looks like, it allows us to really focus our efforts on helping patients get the treatment that they deserve as early as possible within that journey.
Yeah, yeah. Awareness is a big piece of this. How much do you work on awareness in general, and efforts to really generate awareness, so patients can ask the right questions, or the physicians are focusing their diagnosis sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I can tell you from a strategic perspective, we really put our focus on helping educate healthcare providers as much as we can, providing education around the disease state, and really focusing our efforts there. Of course, we have brand treatments, both within Cushing's space as well as with acromegaly, and we've got great options there. But our focus is really on that patient and making sure that we can help educate physicians who might not be treating Cushing's syndrome or acromegaly every single day with those classical signs and symptoms to help them better diagnose those patients that require it.
That's terrific. Well, it's so interesting because there's so much of what you guys do that we think about constantly when we think about pituitary well news as a communications channel to make that dynamic of the doctor suspecting sooner rather than later important. Sometimes it's as basic and simple as awareness. So anyway, it's very interesting.
Absolutely. Awareness is everything. Right now we're really focused on increasing screening, diagnosing, and treatment. And we believe that that's probably the best path for helping patients get the proper diagnosis and treatment they deserve.
Yeah. How is Cushing's is so interesting because the nomenclature is so interesting, and there's so many Cushing's things: Cushing's syndrome, Cushing's disease, ectopic, all these things. How do you? Is that something that industry wide you think it would be important to think about how you describe these things? Because there's we hear it from comments that we get from patients. Cushing's complicated, I'm confused, sort of thing. How do you explain it?
I think that's a great question, and I think it is very complex, but it also makes it really interesting and
Yes.
fascinating. I think that's why a lot of us are involved in this particular space. I do think that we have to think about Cushing syndrome as an umbrella with a lot of different patient etiologies. And of course, we were focused mainly on Cushing disease for the first 4 years here in the United States. As you know, we recently received a new indication for Cushing syndrome.
We had a great discussion with Dr. Maldonado about that in the podcast we just recorded, so that everybody remember to listen.
Well, then I'm sure Dr. Maldonado mentioned that within Cushing syndrome, there's a lot of different patient etiologies. And you mentioned many of them: ectopic, ACC, adrenal hyperplasia, adrenal adenomas, et cetera. And so the patients come in a variety of different presentations, and some of them have very high cortisol levels, some have more milder cortisol levels. And so it's really important to talk to the physician about all of the different types of etiologies and how a patient might present. And it really could also depend on the site of care. If you're in an academic center or in a pituitary center, you may be receiving, endocrinologists there may be receiving referrals of more severely ill patients. Not always, but in many cases they're getting those referrals. But if you're a community endocrinologist, you might be seeing a patient that lacks the Cushingoid features, but may suffer from Cushing's, and that requires a little bit more digging. And what's really exciting about the Endo Society meeting is there's been a lot of data that's been presented and a lot more information around how to diagnose and treat those patients, how to look for those patients.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Well, Peter, thank you so much. Thank you for taking time.
My pleasure.
You're extremely busy. It's great.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you.